Hello, we are Geeks Assembled, yet again, of course. And today we are talking about a science fiction movie released in 1984, which was a sequel to a 1982 movie. We are talking Star Trek 3, The Search for Spock. The cast all return. This one it carries straight on from where the Wrath of Khan left off. So we will go around this small gathering here and ask about your thoughts on this movie. We'll go to what your thoughts on The Search for Spock.
Did you say me, yeah? Oh, he's gone.
Back.
Oh, he's back.
Yeah, the transporter's working, Captain.
Yeah, I think there was a problem with the Starship Enterprise.
Yeah, you only beamed after me up.
Yeah. I'll have a word with Chekhov about that one. Right, so it's me, did you say? Yes?
Over to you, yeah.
Thank you. Okay, thank you, my friend. Yeah. This is... obviously, as you said, this carries on from Wrath of Khan, which is, out of all the films of the original team, the best one. That's my favourite, Wrath of Khan. Next in line, my two favourites are Wrath of Khan and Search for Spock. This is a very good one. And my first Star Trek was actually Star Trek The Next Generation. It was not long after I was introduced to reruns of the original series, which they're such an iconic group. The original Enterprise team, they're so iconic, and Spock is my favorite. I absolutely adored him. So when I was first introduced to the films, I was actually I was first introduced to Wrath of Khan, and I couldn't understand why they what there's a first one. No, don't watch the first one. Many years later, I worked out why. Not very good, but Wrath of Khan was the best one. So you do think, how does it pick up? Because I thought, and many of us thought, that's it, Spock's dead. He's never coming back. But obviously, this picks up not long after the Wrath of Khan, probably like a few hours or something. And yeah, it's a good sort of get the gang back together and get your old friend back film, isn't it? Because that's what it is. It's this, like, they've got the new Enterprise coming in, this younger team, and they're being told it's old, that you guys are gone. But they all get back together, and obviously they find out Spock's alive. Well, in a way alive, because, of course, his body was sent to planet Genesis, and his body sort of regenerating. But, as we learnt from Wrath of Khan, he had sent a good chunk of his mind into Forrest D. Kelly Bones. So you got some great moments with Bones turning into like the Vulcan himself, and a brilliant line. that green-blooded son of a bitch. This is revenge, isn't it? For all those times I was right. That line kills me every time. And you've got some a good villain, Christopher Lloyd, who, as usual, the Klingons are always the bad guys, aren't they? But he plays a really good psycho, evil Klingon called Krug. How do you say his name again? Krug?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, Krug. Yeah. Brilliant little dog as well, that bony, that sort of zombie dog thing. But it's not as great as Wrath of Khan, but I definitely think it is a very good film, because we wanted to see Spock come back. So they all get together and they go to Genesis to find his body, who is now back alive and getting older because of the way planet Genesis works, and basically get his mind back and get the whole team back together. And I've actually missed watching this film. It's a very it's a very, it has a lot of heartwarming moments because, they are getting older, aren't they? And you just want them to get back together. Some great moments in it, which I'll get to later. Uh, I think that's all I could say about it. I think that it is a good movie. It is that and Rafa Khan are very good movies, and it is a good fun watch. Over to you guys.
All right. Us next. Okay.
Okay. Over to Alex and Susan.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah. So always
Loved this movie. First movie that Leonard Nimoy directed that wasn't religious or something. He directed a couple of other movies that were religious, but this one was his first direction of a major motion picture that was, about anything other than religion. And I mean, he wanted to direct it, and he kind of made it a point of saying, "Hey, I'll come back as Spock if you let me direct it." But he didn't say like, I hate Spock. I'm not coming back as Spock. That was all sort of lies and deceit. It's got a great cast. I mean, you've mentioned Christopher Lloyd, but also, I mean, it had James Sicking from one of the American crime shows. It had John Larroquette, and it had Stephen Liska. It had Kathy Sheriff as Valkyris, and it had Merritt Buttrick, who died young. I mean, he died at age 29. He was so young. So not only did Kirk's son die, but Merritt Buttrick, the guy who played him, died really young too. And that was intense. And then there was Robin Curtis, taking over from Kirstie Alley as Sarek or as Saavik. And then there was Mark Leonard as Sarek, and of course the others. And I just got to tell you, it's a really good movie. It's got plenty of action. It's got like a steal the Enterprise kind of thing. So, that authority says no, so we're definitely going to do this thing, which is hilarious. I mean, that becomes sort of a trope for Kirk, but he's amazing, and I really love this. And so that's my opening thoughts. Over to you, Alex.
My stepfather also liked Star Trek more than Star Wars. He didn't like the British other stuff. This is interesting because even though we heard the DVD commentary from Nimoy that now has passed away, sadly, to smoking and then complications of COPD for breathing, he didn't hate Spock. So there was a lot of press, just like the original Star Wars, about this isn't true, that isn't true. I remember when it was released to the general public through the magazines that the spoiler, one of the ships was going to blow up and all these other things before the internet. It is a good movie. The first movie was very studio bound, and it was another reworking of that episode with the robot machine that was trying to scan everything. The second Wrath of Khan was also the sequel to Space Seed episode. This one, thankfully, wasn't technically a sequel as far as the TV show was concerned, but it was written by a TV show writer and producer. So it's got a slight TV feel to it. You do have a lot of TV actors, and you do have a lot of actors that were in B movies, but it's very enjoyable. I mean, even the weird stuff that isn't explained in the movie, it doesn't hurt it. You have also a little bit more sarcasm than you do in the previous movies until you get to Star Trek 4. I saw Star Trek 2, I saw Star Trek 3, I saw Star Trek 4 in the movie theater. And of course, number 4 is a lot more comedic. So it was very enjoyable. I think a lot of people had taken Star Trek a little too seriously.
What?
So it was fun to see 4 where they're in San Francisco. But that being said, even though it is sort of a TV written type of movie, it's well done. The effects are well done. Should they have changed the uniforms? Yeah, I think they should have changed the uniforms, actually. But otherwise, it's very enjoyable. It's enjoyable what Scotty does to the Excelsior. It's enjoyable to see all the TV actors and B-movie actors, from the African-American captain to other people in the movie for like a minute or so. It's an enjoyable movie. It's not as good as 4, and it's not as action-packed as 2, but it's still very enjoyable. And again, I'm not a big Star Trek fan myself. There's only a few characters that I actually like from the Star Trek universe. And don't even get me started on the prequels of Star Trek. And I did like the animated series from the 70s. But yeah, I liked most of the original series, but I don't make a huge effort to watch it. The animated I actually will watch, and I do like the original 4 movies. 5 and 6 got way off on a tangent for me. But I'm glad they did improvements. I'm glad it wasn't the original Star Trek, because that movie really got me bogged down, and it was too much about the ship. And Nimoy even admitted that it was too much about the Enterprise. And I do like the Enterprise, but it was also the design that I liked more than the actual ship.
So what did you think when they blew it up?
Yeah, that's yeah. I can understand why a lot of fans didn't like that. Of course, I like my science fiction a little bit more British. So
what about this character?
Which one? Oh, the High Priestess is British.
Oh yeah.
So that's good. But you can also tell because of her pronunciation. And she's doing it old school. So, as they say nowadays, or as people that speak English would say, old-fashioned. So, yeah, I mean, it's an enjoyable movie. Could have been a little tighter, yes. I remember, like I said, that's the other issue as well with the 60s, 70s, and 80s, is that the press, the magazines, you didn't have Facebook with 10,000 articles and 10,000 links and all that. This was the old days. But yeah, it's still an enjoyable movie. I like 2 and 4 better, but it's still an enjoyable movie.
It may have been old school, but there was still fan forums. That Star Trek website's been up since 1994, I think. I think it was like one of the very first websites on the internet at all. And the forums are still there. You know, you sign on to look at your posts from 1997, and they're still there. So pretty cool stuff, eh?
Oh yeah. I mean, Star Trek is cool. This movie gives us something what the first one and the second one didn't do. It gave the Klingons a proper movie outing. You had them briefly in the first movie, but this one you really get the dirty, rotten Klingons. as it's been mentioned, Christopher Lloyd is just brilliant, brilliant. I did notice, though, several other characters of the crew are sidelined in this movie and have not a lot to do. You know, Sulu, Chekhov, and Uhura. They just leave her, 20 minutes into the movie, and then you don't see her until the end of the movie. This movie is Kirk, McCoy, and to a certain extent, then all the other crew. They say you do get Leonard Nimoy. As it's been said, it's this movie is good, but it's not as good as it's been said, Rafa Khan. But it's still an enjoyable movie. You get all these repeats on TV or whatever. They never seem to put this one on TV. They always seem to put, the Wrath of Khan on, or The Voyage Home. They always see this one never seems to get any airing these days. I don't know why. Well, you sometimes get The Undiscovered Country as well, but not this one. But it's a good romp. It's a battle against the Klingons, what we always liked in the original TV series. That bird of prey is awesome in this. It's as you say, you get because to be honest, there is not much of a story in this. You finding out that the spirit of Spock is still alive. The body is left on the planet. They have to get there. There's a little bit of a space battle, and then there's a battle on the planet, and that's really it. There isn't much to. It is a basic story, but it's enjoyable. But for me, the performance of McCoy, DeForest Kelly, when he's channeling Spock, it's just, and as Ethan's mentioned about the remark about the green-blooded son of a bitch, that is just a brilliant comment. But also this one as well. How many times does Kirk shout, "You Klingon bastards"? Whoa!
And McCoy and Scotty saying to his captain, "Up your shaft."
So, up your shaft. Yeah, up your shaft.
Yeah.
That was a good one. Up your shaft. But yeah, it's a good sequel to Rafa Khan. If they come back and try to repeat the Rafa Khan, I don't think it wouldn't have worked as well, to be honest.
The other funny part was when Scotty sort of sabotaged the Excelsior, and he goes to Bones. He goes from one surgeon to another, and he says, the more they overthink the plumbing, the easier it is to gum up the works. Unfortunately, yeah.
Let him finish.
Go ahead. Sorry.
No, go on.
The unfortunately, the Kelvin timeline of the new Star Treks, while enjoyable, doesn't have the same soul and same emotion.
Yeah.
When they brought back Khan as Benedict Cumberbatch, which did not work. He was way too vicious. That wasn't Khan's character in any previous creations. So it is sad in a way that they couldn't keep going with the Kelvin timeline, but at the same point, I remember even some fans saying, you can't really beat the originals. It's a very good attempt, the Kelvin timeline, but it doesn't have the same it doesn't have the same soul, and it doesn't have the same emotion. You've been a little crackling in terms of the sound, Lee, but I'll see if it's coming over better.
Yeah, I agree that the original series and the movies has got a lot of heart and soul. For me, you feel more for these characters. I don't know if that's because we grew up with these characters, but you do feel for them more than you do the newer versions. So, what's your favourite moments or things you didn't like? Ooh, I think that's the same cover I've got.
Yeah.
What's your favourite moments or things you didn't like? Seeing as you're a mates, Alex and Susan.
Yeah, I mean, again, it was partially written by a TV writer, so you're going to have you're going to have the last moments of the second movie, but thankfully it didn't go on for too long. You do hear what Kirk is thinking, which some people might like that. They do show that Kirk is, broken up about something. They show that later on in the movie, like you mentioned. I didn't like the African American captain saying, "Your command has always been about being intellectual." I went, "Are we watching the same character? Because I don't remember Kirk being intellectual. That's what Spock's there for." Um, so I've always liked Bones. I've always liked Spock. I've always liked Sulu. Kirk's kind of a cowboy, but that fits in well with Khan and also this character, Krug. They didn't really explain what the woman was there for when her ship got blown up. They did change Savick, which it's a good portrayal, but it's not the same as Christy Alley. Um, and of course, she went on to other movies and other TV shows. The son, Kirk's son, yeah, I always found him a little bit annoying, regardless of what movie he was in. But like I said, they did good in the movie of making sure that his loss was felt. Yeah, Uhura doesn't get to do a lot, but she's part of the crew. That was the other thing, is that Star Trek was based on Horatio Hornblower Wagon Train, and then Gene Roddenberry wanted a very he wanted a cast that wasn't all Caucasian. He didn't want a cast that was all very similar looking and similar acting and things of that sort. Is the third season of Star Trek the TV show good? Not many episodes, unfortunately, but the first two seasons are good. So I mean, like I said, I'll always have a place in my heart for Doctor Who and Blake Seven and other series like that. But they could have had these movies been very bad, or mediocre, like 5 and 6 was, kind of. But it is good that they learned very quickly. You didn't have to wait, 3 movies for everything to improve. And it was a lot of fun watching the audience, respond. And it is slightly different than the Star Wars audience that we just reviewed in a way. There seems to be a lot more teenagers and adults in a Star Trek universe than in a Star Wars universe. And I've always wondered about that. Not that there isn't kids in Star Trek, there is. But the audience seems to be more adult, which is interesting.
All right. Well, I liked. Let's see. My favorite moments were my most unfavorite moment, which is a really impactful moment, which really makes this movie, is when they blow up the Enterprise. I mean, that wrecks me every time. And I liked the fist fight between Kirk and Krug. That was great. And let's see. I particularly liked the stealing the Enterprise bit, especially trying to go through space dock doors. That was that was kind of high tension and fun and stuff. And I liked the fact that Yeoman Rand was sitting there on the sideline watching the ship come in, and you could tell how emotional she got over seeing the ship. So that's how you knew that the ship was you know, in a really bad way. You know, she was like, "Holy crap!" You know. Anyway, so I liked how snarky everybody was, and I liked the scene in the prison. Don't call me tiny. Anyway, that was funny. There's a lot of humor and a lot of sadness and a lot of emotion. It's like emotional roller coaster ride. Even if it wasn't like super intense plot wise, like Lee had said, it was an emotional roller coaster ride from start to finish. Lots of tears, lots of laughter, lots of rejoicing and stuff. And seeing Saavik make out with Spock, you know, that was pretty incredible too. So, because you knew that was foreplay, right? So that's fun. Anyway, those are my favorite moments, and back to you.
Vulcan foreplay. Well, there you go. Over to you, Ethan.
I was going to say something about the Vulcan foreplay, but I better not ruin any plans. I used to like that show when I was. Now you ruined it for me. Anyway, no. Yeah, favorite moments. I'd already mentioned DeForest Kelley was brilliant in all those scenes. The lines, you know, that green-blooded son of a bitch, and even that little bit in the bar when that guy from the Enterprise comes after him, and of course he's speaking of, if I've got part of Spock in me, I could use the Vulcan attack on him. And he tries to get him. Nothing. Just a little moment like that. That is quite. It's little moments like that you think that is pretty funny. Just thinking, which one? Damn it! The space battle between the Klingons and the Enterprise gang. Yeah, that's a pretty good scene. That's a pretty good. Well, it's pretty much the only big space fight, but it is a good scene. And the big fight on Genesis where it's all blowing up and stuff. I mean, that's brilliant. The fight between Kirk and Krug, that's a really good fight. Yeah, you just love just seeing that, just get his face kicked, and then classic William Shatner acting. I have had enough of you. Off he goes. I can't help but smile at that bit. But I'm like, that is a good death. But I'm like, that's classic William Shatner moment. The best bit for me, and I remember I got emotional the first time I watched this years ago. The best bit for me is when they finally bring Spock back. And of course, that's what it's been building up to, isn't it? You wanted to see Spock. And of course, because it was all different actors that played him, you know, because you go, young kid, teenager, young adult, and then Spock himself. And when he turns around and takes that hood off, and you see it's Leonard Nimoy, I mean, you know, it's just classic. And he says, you know, he's trying to remember. There's no music or sound or anything. It's just totally silent. It's just when he's walking past and he's stopping at everybody, each one individually. Like, no one's left behind. He knows each one is special. And he's like trying to remember each one. And he finally gets to James, just, you know, the brilliant line, Jim, your name is Jim. And they say he just remembers, they all get together, he remembers everything. And it finishes it off perfectly with the classic one eyebrow raised of Spock. When Leonard Nimoy does the one eyebrow raised, you just cheer at that bit. You're like, he's back. You know, he's just like, And it ends perfectly. You just the whole game back together. You just can't end it more perfect than that. The final shot, Spock, his eyebrow raised. That's my favorite bit in the whole film. Just that whole ending. But it is yeah. Those are my favorite bits. I think. Oh yeah, the trying to steal the Enterprise. That was good. That was good fun and funny. And one last bit, Sulu. You know, it's a tiny bit, but as it was mentioned, that don't call me tiny. Sulu just all cool, knocks the guy out, blows up with coolness the computer, and he's got his coat on. Just don't call me tiny. Yeah, just Sulu just was cool at that point. It's a small bit, but he was cool. George Takei at that bit.
Yep. Agreed.
Oh yeah, yeah, totally agree there. For me, I would say one of the best scenes in it is when Spock's father mind melds with Kirk. It's just a brilliant scene where he's searching for Spock's memories, and all he can find is the last sort of dying words from Spock from the last movie in Kirk's head. You know, you can just see in Kirk's face. That's all he can think of. And also the fight with the Klingon commander on the planet just harks back to the TV series when Kirk used to fight the alien. That is just brilliant, brilliantly done. But it's all.
But Gorn.
Oh yeah, Gone, yeah. But apart from that, everything else, it's just as Ethan said, the eyebrow raised at the end. Typical Spock. Just loved it. So yeah, it's just a good follow up to Wrath of Khan, and they didn't try to emulate the last movie. They've gone and done something different. They brought a classic baddie back from the classic series and pitted it against Kirk and the crew, which it works so well, and we get Spock back as well. So, anything else? What anybody has to say on this movie?
That's the way to steal a Klingon ship, eh?
Oh yeah, you do the switcheroo on the transmat.
Uh-huh.
I mean, that is a good scene as well, where he says, "Let me hear what is it saying." It's going 3, 2, 1. Get out of there! Boom! But as I say, Christopher Lloyd was brilliant as well. So, we'll, if nobody's got anything else to say about the Search for Spock, we will end it here. Thank you, guys.
Oh, wait a minute. Did we do the score yet?
We should score it.
No, there's no score. We haven't scored it yet.
Oh, right. Then in that case, we'll put the score then. I thought we had.
No, we haven't.
Oh, right. Go on then, Ethan.
Okay. Yeah, as it's mentioned, out of all the films, the best one is Wrath of Khan, and that's a stunning movie. But this is like a really good sort of part 2, you know. So I'm going to give it a 9 out of 10.
Sweet.
That's not a bad score. I wasn't expecting that. Over to you two.
Yeah, I'm gonna give this a 8. I'd give the Voyage Home a 9 just because it's funnier and it's a little bit more relatable. But again, that's the nice thing about science fiction too. You can do very serious stories, and you can do you can do wars, and you can do comedy, and you can do a lot of things. But yeah, the second, third, and fourth are pretty good, and they even admitted it's sort of an unofficial trilogy. And also, the audience, every time I've seen it with an audience, the audience just loves 2, 3, and 4. I mean, that's also good writing and good acting and good pacing when almost everywhere you see this with a group of people. I mean, they're with it, you know, they want to go along for the ride. They like the characters, they like the villains, they like the dialogue. It's just, you know, that's what good movie making is. I think also that might be also why you have the competition between Star Wars and Star Trek, and the fact that they can make movies that have such a devoted fandom. That even Star Trek wasn't the original, movies. So I like this, not as much as I like The Voyage Home, though. I remember watching that in the theater and hearing so many people laugh, especially on the bus
Did you?
where they used I
did you-
did score it. They had the Vulcan neck pinch used properly this time, not by McCoy.
Did you? He gave it an 8, I think. Okay, so I'm going to disagree with him. I think it's a 9.5. I think it's really, really awesome. I love the fact that Nimoy directed it. I love the fact that it was a steal the Enterprise and go save Spock thing. That was awesome. I loved. I agree. The performances were great. I think that seeing the cast perform like that was really, really amazing. And then I think that the special effects were awesome too. I think that they did so much good stuff with the special effects in this. There were some things that kind of like have dated a little bit, like the Genesis planet displays were kind of cheesy, but the rest of it was amazing. The stuff that that sticks with you was beautiful, especially the starship chase was really cool, with the guy from NYC, New York City Blues or whatever, or Hill Street Blues. Yeah. Anyway, chasing him. So anyway, it was great. I'll give this a 9.5, and I encourage you guys to watch the movies as well as the TV show.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And
Some of the TV shows are better than other TV shows, but we're not judging which ones.
yeah, we haven't even started that yet.
Sure, we're not.
Right. What shall I give this? I enjoy it, but there's other Star Trek movies out there what I like better. I mean, I love Rafa Khan. I love Voyage Home. I'm going to give this a 7.75. Still a good score, but the other ones I'd score higher. Yeah, it's an enjoyable space adventure, and that this could have been just an episode from the TV series. Really, it's one of the as it's been said, it was written by one of the TV writers. It's got that feel about it. So yeah, now we've finished talking Star Trek 3. I'd like to think I'll go back to what I was saying. I like to look. I can't do that. I can't do that with my fingers. No, can't do it. Can't do it.
Put your thumb down, Ethan. Put your thumb down. Your thumb is supposed to be out there. There you go. That's the way. That's the way it looks.
Can I do that? There we are. That's my Vulcan. That's
Okay,
my.
cool.
You
can use tape.
Well, yeah, thank you guys for talking all things Search for Spock. You guys out there, if you're watching this video, leave a comment below. Tell us what you don't like. Tell us what you like. And we're on Twitter. We're on Facebook. We're as I say, we're universal. And if you want to get involved, just leave us a message. So and we're always looking for ideas of casts and stuff like that. So if you've got any ideas as well, suggest something. Because, we'll always look at the suggestions and we'll see what we can do. So until next time, it's live long and prosper.